Hello everyone, and welcome back to some more Kerbal Space Program Career Mode. And we are back today with a mission attempt to go to Duna. Now I'm sure all of you, or at least if you've been watching these, you've seen my primary launch stage. Yes, my pronunciations are on par today. So I just decided to cut that out of the video because altogether I believe all the snippets that I did when I was going out to Duna, it went all the way to about an hour or so. So for this mission I've devised myself a new interplanetary vessel, this being called the Interplanetary Vessel. Yes, that was not very creative. I'll just blame that one on the engineers because they made it. But it is basically comprised of a main 1.5 centimeter part, or not millimeter, whatever you want to call it, whatever the unit is in Kerbals. It's just a 1.5K for Kerbins, and it is just a nice little interplanetary vessel, to be honest. It has a nuclear engine. It has two LV-909 mini engines that are attached to bigger fuel tanks that are used to primarily land, and then we have two external fuel tanks that are half the size of the ones in which the LV-909s are mounted on, just for some additional fuel for our main mission, because going out to Duna, it does require quite a lot of Delta V. I'm not sure what the specific Delta V is. To escape Kerbin, you need at least 3,000 meters per second of Delta V, and then in order to get yourself into an encounter with Duna. And the way I did this, I used this handy website, I think it's like KSP and it helps you calculate all of the phase angles and where both planets should be relative to each other when you have to start your burns. So once I escaped Kerbin, I proceeded to do my burns right here in order to get to an encounter with Duna, and since the phase angles and everything were synonymous, I didn't have to worry about it too much. And the power of cutting and snipping video editing. Yes, this would be a very long video and very tedious to watch, but I got myself into an encounter after a little while, provided it was a relatively high encounter. Now, Duna is the only celestial body that I have landed on this world so far, so this was a pretty big step. Now, what happens near the end is what gets a bit interesting and is what provides for yet another submission. And here I am just mucking around with some more maneuver node systems, and then we're getting ourselves into a circulation burn. Now, a lot of this stuff is just primary stuff. We've already done a lot of this with the Mun encounter and all, and going out to Minmus, so I've just cut a big majority of it out. Now, right here is where we get ourselves into a captured orbit around Duna and its smaller moon Ike. Now, when I managed to get myself down to a lower orbit, I find myself with an Ike encounter. Now, Ike being the smaller natural satellite of Duna, it's a little moon. It resembles the moon of Kerbin, the actual moon, not Minmus. That it has not necessarily a high gravity, but it does have about the same gravity as the Mun, if I am not mistaken. It was a while since I recorded this. I looked up all the stats while I was doing it at the time when I was on the surface and all, so I may be forgetting. And I also have the hiccups right now, which is probably not a good idea to be recording. So right here, when I'm bringing down my apoapsis to its highest point, or wait, that would be the periapsis, because right now we're at the apoapsis. Oh yeah, those psych terms, those astronomy terms. I said psych. I'm not in psychology right now. This is indeed Kerbal Space Program, not psychology, but we could talk about some psychology later, maybe if there's a psychology themed Kerbal Space Program game, if that's a thing. But we have ourselves an encounter, so I decide, hey, why not? Let's go with it. We can visit Duna in due time, but I want to check out Ike real quick because we like Ike, which is what the crew report says when we get around there. Now, you're going to see another little orbiting mission right now. You're going to see it orbiting around Duna. Now, a while ago, I sent out this guy. I'm not sure if it's one of the main orange-suited Kerbals, you know, like Bob, Bill, or Jeb. But I sent this out here a while ago. I did not have enough fuel to land or really capture myself to where I could just like use the atmosphere to help me aero brake. So that was not a possibility, and I have a guy stuck there right now orbiting Duna. So we'll have to go manage to pick him up at some point. I'm sorry I sniffed back there. It's a bit cold and rainy today, so I guess the weather is not faring on my allergies or my nose or my sinuses or whatever you want to call it particularly well. But don't worry, one day we will send out a rescue mission. He's been doing definitely some very large longitudinal studies around the orbits of Duna. He has a name for every rock and every speck of ice on the caps of Duna. I'm sure of that so far. So we start getting ourselves into a captured orbit around the moon of Ike, and you can see it has some really nice craters, and it resembles Kerbin's moon really well. It just looks like it has some good craters on It has a dark and a light side, and what I do right here is I'm in a polar orbit, or I'm about to get myself into a captured polar orbit, which is something I don't typically like to do, but you know, it works in this case. I didn't feel like spending the extra fuel generating delta V in order to change it. So we get ourselves into a captured orbit, and then the fun ensues. Now I'm going to be completely honest that I did crash on my first attempt here. I wasn't sure of any of the stats, what the gravity was like. I knew it didn't have an atmosphere, so I couldn't pull the easy and deploy a parachute like we're going to on Duna. So I did crash once, but thank goodness I quick saved and I was able to correct it. And here is the correct version right here. This is where we do not crash, and we do manage to land on the light side, which is always a great thing when it comes to Kerbal Space Program and landing when you do not have lights on your landing module. I have landed once on the Mun with I knew the gravity and everything, but I had no lights, and I did it on the dark side. I think I managed to land on a flat spot, which was very helpful, but I was surprised when I did it. I landed and I thought, wow, this is something new. Maybe it's time to go further out to Elu, just skip all the planets in between and go straight to Elu. Now, you're going to see already that we're having some issues with fuel. We've already run through our main tank of fuel, and we ditched the 2 outer tanks on our way out here, and that is going to contribute to some bad tidings when we try and leave the planet Duna. So, note to self, pack more fuel next time, and we're going to come out here with a 3-man capsule. But I've already pre-recorded another episode. I usually do about 4 or 5 of these in bulk. I just play Kerbal Space Program for a couple hours on like a lazy Sunday or something while it's raining, kind of like today. And then I just, you know, go through all the missions. I do some cool stuff, like I actually have an Apollo landing on the moon scheduled. I've already got that done. I just have to commentate over it. You know, my voluptuous commentating skills, I've already done that. And I did actually a couple really good rendezvous. They were pretty cool, actually. So an Apollo style, and we'll be doing that later on. And then I've made an entire communications network around the planet Kerbal with about 6 or so satellites. So, you know, no Kerbal will ever be without Wi-Fi. So that is definitely an improvement. So we are coming down very nicely right here. A second time is the charm right here. We now know that the first time I just did not have any idea of the gravity. So I really just came down and tried to suicide burn, and it did not work whatsoever. But I'm just looking around for my shadow here. We're on the light side, so we should be able to see. We have not quite picked up on ground scatter, which I have enabled. And that usually is a telltale sign of when you're going to land, or like how close you are to the surface, more so than how many meters you are above. It's kind of like the street knowledge of all the moons. Once you see the ground scatter, you know there's going to be some trouble. But the altitude, man, either way, the altitude's going to be there, but ground scatter's not. So you just got to have your bandana on, and you have to have your gun ready just to, you know, go grab those scientific experiments. And yes, we are seeing ground scatter, so the telltale sign has told true. And we are just coming down very gingerly, no suicide burns here, just some careful intermittent burns, and then, you know, just do a little zoom out just to catch the scale. Because one cool thing about Kerbal Space Program, you just get to see how small you really are in comparison to the universe. It makes you feel really insignificant, but then you come right back because you're planting flags and you're making a difference, and we're about to land anyways. We like Ike. That is all I can say about that big metaphor about yourself and the bigger solar system. So we see our shadow, and boom, look at that. Spring is coming early this week, folks. The gopher did not see his shadow, or we did, but we're just going to completely ignore the gopher because his shadow means nothing to us. We are proud, and we do not need animals telling us when seasons come and go. But yes, I'm not even sure who I assigned to this mission. Who was it? Was this Anlan? I think this was Anlan Kerman, if I'm not mistaken. I recorded this over a week ago, so if I remember that is going to be a feat right there. So we just have our boy Anlan jumping around on the surface right here doing some surface samples, which will really prove insignificant towards the end because for whatever reason, while the engineers were strapping on all the engines and putting on the landing legs and making sure there were enough snacks for Anlan, they totally forgot to put on any type, and I mean any type of communication and transmit back some science. So this mission was kind of a lame duck mission. Nothing was really accomplished, but hey, we learned something new, and this will be added to the history books for all small Kerbans to read who want to be Kerbonauts. We like Ike. Yes, indeed, we do like Ike, and that is really all I can take away from this mission. We didn't really conduct any great science. We didn't find out if there was water on Ike at one point, or even if there was an atmosphere. We don't even know where this thing came from, but we know that we like it, and that's about all we can do. So once we've mucked around enough on the surface of Ike, we decide, man, it's time to blow this popsicle stand, and we make ourselves into a nice little orbit. Now, the gravity around Ike is not all that heavy, so to make an orbit, it's pretty much the same as if you were trying to do this on the Mun. you need about, I'm going to say, between 300 to 500 meters per second to have a sufficient orbit, one that's not highly eccentric, just one that kind of works like a 10,000 by 20,000 meter orbit. Since there's not a whole lot of really big mountains or big hills or anything on this on Ike, it's not really a bad deal to go all that slow. So you can use less delta V to save more fuel if you're in that kind of predicament. I was just safe here, and I think I did right around a 10,000 meter orbit, and then I just went straight to escape. I didn't go to a parking, so I escape, and then as soon as we escape Ike, we automatically have a re-encounter into the sphere of influence of Duna, which is our immediate next target. So once we do our burn, I think we need about 500 or so meters per second to escape and then get into a relatively high orbit around Duna. We perform that burn, and then it's time to get to business. You know what I'm talking about. 2 LV-909s pushing this vessel through the depths of space, and then insert epic speech here about how Kerbins have it in them. But yeah, that's really all I've got with regards to that. And on a completely unrelated Kerbin note, I would like to talk about why in the world we haven't uploaded in about 4 or so days. I'm assuming this will go up later today. I really hope so, provided that our internet does not flip zip on us. But we've been sketchy with our uploads, this is usually our excuse during the week, is that we have a lot of stuff to do at school and with family, which is just the case. However, I have had an epiphany, a new idea, and a puff of air into the mic, which doesn't sound good on anyone's ears. I apologize. I should probably put back on the pop filter. But regardless, whenever we miss a day or something like that, we will do our best to upload twice the next day or 3 times the day after that in order to make up for our shortcomings and the lack of videos. So that'll be our plan from here on out. So we've missed about 3 or so days. So today you can expect several videos. We're probably going to be doing some Feed the Beast, maybe some indie games, definitely Kerbal Space Program, and I'll probably re-mention this within Subscribers Sundays. But yeah, once we escape Ike, we find ourselves back into an orbit around Duna, where we will find ourselves spending more and more fuel to capture ourselves even lower and lower above the surface of our boy, yes, our boy Duna, the boy with ice caps, and our boy with the red surface resembling that of Mars. Now, I will just give you a bit of a spoiler right here, so if you don't want to hear a spoiler about KSP or this mission in general, I would require closing your ear holes, because it's time. I'm going to say it right here. Are you ready? Has everybody got their ears closed? They're probably listening to see if he's already said it. Well, I'm about to say it. We do have our boy Anlan here, the hero of the Interplanetary Space Program's Mission Control HQ, Study Center, Scientific R&D, whatever you want to call it. We do have him stay out here, yes. Now, I can partly say I'm doing this, for science, to see what happens when you leave a Kerbin out here for a very long time. But I'm just going to be completely honest, we ran out of fuel. I did not have enough fuel to even get into an orbit around Duna after this. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I just did not pack enough fuel. My nuclear engine was hoarding some fuel. It was just saving it in its pockets, so when he gets back to Kerbin, he can share it with all the other nuclear engines who would be very greedy with it. But I'm pretty sure even the nuclear engine did not have fuel to be greedy with, so we pretty much are just stuck here. Maybe we can build a McDonald's, maybe we can set up a strip mall or something, but for now we're just going to have to stick with the basics, which is our space capsule and a lot of moon rocks, many moon rocks, and more intermediate hiccups, because that is what happens, hiccups upon hiccups. Now, the cool thing about Duna is it has an atmosphere. Now, if Duna did not have an atmosphere, I would probably find myself crashing because of not having enough fuel, but we are able to use our parachute. Now, I'm going to be completely honest, when I first tried to land on the moon, I was aware that the moon had no atmosphere, but I thought, hey, we're going to slow down parachutes. It just made sense. It seemed like an airbag, but it needed air. And it's not a bag, it's just kind of like a big quilt. It's one of Grandma's quilts, and I just couldn't do it, and I was baffled. But then I watched Scott Manley, and I was put immediately back on the right track. I did everything I could to land safely and have enough fuel to, save the day. But that was just not the case. And I'm actually kind of surprised I managed to land on the day side now, because I'm sure if any of you watch this and you know how I play Kerbal Space Program, I am not the best at this game by a long shot. So doing a successful land-side landing without breaking a landing leg or anybody having their feelings hurt, it is quite an accomplishment if I do say so myself. So we're just burning retrograde here to bring down our orbit into one where we'll get captured by the atmosphere, and then we will aerobrake, which is basically using the the rigors of re-entry and a thick atmosphere to slow us down without having to use fuel to do so. Now, Duna's atmosphere is very, very low, and it gets dense when it's low, so I believe the atmosphere starts around 30,000 or so meters above the surface. I may be mistaken, but that's when I observed that we were starting to slow down because of the atmosphere, not a parachute being deployed. So that's just my rough guess of where the atmosphere of Duna really is. But looking at Duna just on the night side looks kind of cool. It's like a little red marble, and you see those little ice caps, and you're thinking, wow, what if we send out a bunch of Kerbals up here? We met up, we had a rover, and we did some toboggan races, or we did some good skiing. It's a possibility. I mean, we have Anlan out here. He's probably explored the entire surface of Duna by now, and maybe even visited a couple of some shops and some strip malls, and I don't know, picked up a basket or two full of moon rocks. So I think he is ready to go skiing with his pals. I'm sure Jebediah would love to see the day where Bob, Bill, and everyone just has a day off on Duna, having some skiing. I think it's got to be something. Do some tourism in Kerbal Space Program. Set up like a hotel, or maybe a condo. Yes, some condominiums. Maybe a beach house if we bring many pails of water. That could be arranged. You know what? I'm going to have to write this one down. That seems like something for Houston, as they will have to consider this mission. Sending a bunch of pails of water to Duna. What is your reasoning for this, Jebediah? Well, you see, we have to make a beach and then a ski resort, because this is what we need. We are Kerbals. We require accommodations for Duna, and then it's accepted on the spot, and that is just kind of where it works. Now, I did not cut this last kind of lowering our descent around or on Duna, because I was seeing this kind of halo effect of the sun. I did not want to skip a moment of this, because I really love the way the visual enhancement mod, which puts in clouds and cities on Kerbin and other planets. If you have an atmosphere, you're going to have some clouds with the mods. So we have clouds, and when we see the cool halo effect off the clouds, especially when we're landing, we get to see Ike, and it's so close. It looks like a big snowball hurling towards the big ski resort. And it's an interesting way to look at a planet. It just makes it look a whole lot cooler. Now, I'm not sure if this planet, what was it called, Duna, has, since it does resemble Mars from an actual solar system, our actual solar system, I'm not sure if it has an Olympus Mons type of big mountain on it. I didn't really look around or really have the means of exploring. I really want to bring out a rover to one of these planets at some point. That'd just be really cool to have do some jumping. You know what? That's three things. We're going to build a hotel, we're going to build a ski resort, and now we're going to have some dune buggy, going to go off the slopes, and that'd be pretty cool. We might get some air because the gravity is lower on Duna, so that'd be interesting. Now we're lowering down right here, and we are suffering the effects of re-entry, and we are slowing down because of the atmosphere. You can see that reflected in map mode, where our periapsis is being brought down and our landing location is getting closer and closer because, well, we are slowing down. Now, I make use of the atmosphere slowing us down via aero braking as much as I can. I don't deploy the parachute till a lot longer. Now, there were so many hindsights. I just hit myself and said, could have had a V8 after this, because, man, oh man, I just forgot so many things. I only packed one parachute on this thing. I did not have any radial mounted parachutes. I'm not even sure what I was thinking. I must have been drunk or something. I was just playing Kerbal Space Program, and I had no idea what I was doing. And one hiccup later, we activate the LV-909 mini engines, the little half pints, the little piddle packs, and they start slowing us down more because our parachute is not cutting it, and I was worried that the parachute would not deploy, but it did. So hey, look at that, fantastic. And this landing, it just looked so cool because look at the clouds and the ground scatter. It looks like the perfect lawn. I claim this planet in the name of all homeowners, patriotic or not. This place just looks fantastic with the black clouds, the red surface, the distant Ike, and a little bit of a thud when we land, but hey, no one was hurt and no damage was seen, so successful mission indeed, I do say so myself. So once we land, we EVA ANLAN, and I feel like I should say EVA stands for Extra Vehicular Activity, because I learned that a little while ago, and I feel special because I know it now. Knowing acronyms is just a cool thing, and when we look behind the spacecraft right here, we can see Ike, which is really close, and I just thought that was really cool. It just seemed like such an alien thought to me, having a moon that close. That is right. And we have clouds, and we have a cool little halo effect, and this place just looks magical. We do some science experiments, even though they are all in vain. We would have gotten some major science from this place, but you know, sometimes sacrifices have to be made, and in this case, making a condo on Duna is just going to have to be that price. Now, one day we will come out here and we will save our friend ANLAN, but for now, he's going to have to be the sole proprietor of all industries and enterprises in interplanetary space, respectively speaking, because I have a feeling, now this could be a bit of a hint, I have a feeling that we're going to have to start up a jet ski enterprise on Lathe, one of Jules' moons, but I don't know, it might be something down the road. You might have to reserve your tickets in advance, but this pretty much wraps it up for what we were doing here. The video cuts very soon, so I'm sure you can assume there is no return trip, and that is just the case, because we just can't do it. We don't have enough fuel, and I'm pretty sure ANLAN is concurrent with Houston when he says, ANLAN, you are going to have to stay here for a while. But why? Well, you're out of fuel, son, and you just kind of have to start up a family business. Well, alright, I will do it for Jebediah, Bill, and Bob. And that's kind of where the journey ends. This is it. We are here, and we are here to stay. Let's just do a nice little time lapse of right here, where we see Ike going across the surface, and man, oh man, is this one beautiful place. It just... oh, soak in the Duna, soak it all in, and then just take a look at our fallen Kerbals behind us and notice, well, we are very thankful for everything that they've given us. But thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.